So hey guys, it is September 1st, which means it is almost Halloween Horror Nights time. So here I am today with my top 5 tips for tackling Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. So if you follow me at all, then you probably realize that currently while I'm filming this video, I am in the middle of hurricane/tropical storm Harvey. I live in Houston, Texas, and life is crazy. However, I'm using this to distract myself from the insanity that's happening around me right now. I'm hoping that I can edit this and upload this on Friday because our house might flood. So I'm making light of the situation in order to make myself feel better and distracting myself by filming this video about my favorite place, which is Halloween Horror Nights. And my vacation can't come soon enough at this point. This has been the craziest few days. If you want to know more about that, you can watch my weekly vlog that's going to be up on Monday detailing everything we've gone through this past week. But for now, I wanted to go ahead and discuss Halloween Horror Nights and kick off the Halloween season on my channel. So today's video is going to be my top 5 tips for getting the most out of your Halloween Horror Nights experience. These are the tips that I use every single year to have the best time ever. And what I want you guys to do is go ahead and leave me comments down below for anything that I do not answer in this video, or just anything you want to know about Halloween Horror Nights. If you want to know my favorite house, my favorite scare zone, any of that, leave me a question down below. I'm planning to do a Halloween Horror Nights Q&A next week. So without further ado, let's discuss my top 5 tips. So my first tip for Halloween Horror Nights Orlando is to decide what type of ticket you want in advance. There are a lot of ticket options at Halloween Horror Nights, and if you try to just show up that night and pick a ticket, you might get really confused. So my advice for anyone who's starting out at Halloween Horror Nights for your first time is to do a little research and decide what ticket best fits your experience. Now I get this question a lot, and it's, can I see everything in one night? Do I need to go multiple nights? And do I need Express Pass? So here's my advice as far as that. Personally, I like to go as many nights as possible. However, you might not be as much of a fanatic as me, but there can never be enough Halloween Horror Nights for me. I would go every single night of the event if, 1, I had enough energy for it, and 2, could afford it, and 3, lived in Florida. So, but for you, my main advice would be, if you only have one night at this day and age, I would recommend getting an Express Pass, because with only one night or maybe only 2 nights, it's hard to see everything at the event at this stage because it's gotten so popular in, say, the last 5 years. It's just exploded in popularity. So it's getting very tough to see everything in one night if you don't have Express, especially for your average guest who doesn't know the lay of the park and the lay of the event as much as my friends and I do. So if you only got 1 or 2 nights, highly recommend getting the Express. It'll be worth it. You can go through all of the houses guaranteed, and then it gives you enough time to really absorb the scare zones, absorb the shows, and enjoy your time there without being constantly in line. However, if you're like me and have multiple nights devoted to this event, Express isn't really necessary, especially if you plan well, which I'll get to in a moment. That said, if you're going to go any night without having Express, I highly, highly recommend Stay and Scream, which I hate putting that out there because everyone's getting to know about Stay and Scream, and suddenly Stay and Scream is getting busier and busier. However, for you guys, Stay and Scream is vital for getting to see as much as you want to see because it gives you early access into the houses. But in order to do Stay and Scream, you have to either have a Universal Annual Pass or a day ticket admission to Universal. So it's extra money for sure. If you're planning your Universal vacation and you're already planning to be in the parks during the day, this shouldn't be a big deal to you. You'll just already be in the parks and you have to have your Halloween Horror Nights ticket, and then you're allowed to go into one of the holding pens for Stay and Scream. If you're an annual pass holder, same deal. You just get into the park before 5 p.m. You have to be inside the parks before 5 p.m. And then they'll push you into a holding pen and you get to wait as long as you have your Halloween Horror Nights ticket. If neither of those options fit your vacation, then you may want to just go ahead and consider getting the Express Pass, because the Express Pass is going to be cheaper than a full day's admission to Universal unless you're doing some sort of package. The last bit about Stay and Scream, because I know I get this question a lot, I know you guys are curious about Stay and Scream. Once you're in the park, it's before 5 p.m., you've made it inside, you will have, at least in the past, 4 options of holding pens to choose from. Now, as of when I'm filming this video, they still have not done a full release of the event, so I can't even tell you all the houses they're gonna have, even though I kind of know what they are, but I can't like really tell you what they are. But if you're involved with Halloween Horror Nights, you probably have already seen all the rumors of what's happening and what's coming. But they have not released a map or anything, so I can't tell you specifically the strategy you need to use. But in years past, the 4 holding pens have been Finnegan's Pub, Hello Kitty, Simpsons area, and Diagon Alley. And each of those areas will have an area where you can hang out for the hour to hour and 15 minutes you're going to be waiting before you get released. They'll have little pop-up bars, or if you're in Finnegan's, a real bar, and bathrooms and all that stuff that you need to survive for the hour that you're waiting. Now the pen you choose is going to determine which house you get led to, which takes me to my second tip, which is plan your strategy of how you want to see the event. My strategy, and the one I will tell you guys to do, is to do as much as you can of the houses within the first hour or hour and a half, because after that point the general public is going to rush in and the lines are going to skyrocket. So if you're doing Stay and Scream, don't get released from the pens and like, it's time to buy a drink, or let me sit and watch this scare zone that nobody's in yet and it's daylight and nothing's happening. Don't do that. You want to leave the Stay and Scream holding pens and go straight to whatever house they lead you to and try to hit as many houses as you can until usually 7:30 is when we notice that the lines pick up. And that way you can get, our group usually gets 5 or 6 houses done within the first hour. And then you can relax. So like I just mentioned with Stay and Scream, your holding pen determines what house you go to. Based on previous years, I can go ahead and say what I assume is going to be the release points. Hello Kitty, most likely releasing to American Horror Story, because I assume that's going to be in the same place it was last year. Finnegan's, most likely going to release to The Shining, because that is where The Exorcist was last year, and that just makes sense to me. First house, Shining. Diagon Alley, I've heard some rumors that they might not have a holding pen in there this year, but if they do, it's probably going to go to the back tent house, which the Chance house was in last year. It's the 3rd tent that's right by Bill and Ted's. And then if you do Simpsons, I assume it goes to the parade building, which rumor has it is Ash versus the Evil Dead. So if you're there for multiple nights and you're finding that you can't make it to certain houses because the waits have been too long, I would suggest switching which holding pen you're in order to target different areas. So like last year, Finnegan's is obviously a favorite. We like hanging out there, we like getting drinks to start the night, and it's just a fun atmosphere to be in. So last year we were typically starting off with Exorcist. However, there were a couple times I started over at Hello Kitty because I wanted to see American Horror Story, and the wait times for American Horror Story were record-setting, and I didn't want to wait 3 hours to see that house. So I waited in Hello Kitty to make that be the first house I saw, so we waited like 20 minutes. Obviously, I don't know what the pattern is going to be this year. Every year it changes based on house popularity, but my main advice would be to use the Stay and Scream holding pens to your advantage to see different houses that you want to see, and just stay active for that first hour, because you can always repeat them later, but you're never going to have that short of wait times again. So my third tip would be, once you hit that peak time, take a break. Sit in a scare zone, watch a show, get some dinner, but make sure you take a break. Halloween Horror Nights is a marathon, not a sprint, and it is a lot of walking. If you watch my vlogs, you probably have heard us talk about this before, but we walk 6 to 10 miles per night at Halloween Horror Nights. It is a lot of walking. Those queues wrap around for days, and you're just walking so much, so you will need a break. Our group typically does as many houses as we can up until the wait times jump up, and then we'll get dinner, we'll go see Bill and Ted's, we'll go camp in scare zones and see our friends scaring people, or just make new friends scaring people, and enjoy the other things that the event offers while the masses have taken over the park. It's a good time to rest your feet and regain your energy for the next wave of houses. Also, this particular year, I highly recommend going to see Bill and Ted's. Do not skip that, because this year they've announced is the last year of Bill and Ted's, which is very sad to me. This is going to be my 15th year of Halloween Horror Nights, and I have seen the Bill and Ted's show every one of those years that I've gone, and it's just, I can't fathom it not being there. It's just been part of Halloween Horror Nights. The awesome news is that my favorite Ted, or at least The Ted that I have known for the majority of my Halloween Horror Nights years is coming back this year. He left last year, but I'm guessing since the last year they gave him a heads up, and so the guys that have played Bill and Ted for, I don't know, like 8 years now are going to be back together, reunited. It's going to be an awesome send-off. I'm sure the writers are going to pull out all the stops. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of references to previous shows. Can guarantee there's going to be an Avatar Land joke. It's just going to be a really good time and also very sad. So if it's your first time going to the event, make sure you go see Bill and Ted's because it's going to be the last year and you're never going to get the chance again. So number 4 is stop and smell the fog. If you've watched any of my Halloween Horror Nights vlogs, you know that we are all a little bit obsessed with the smell of Horror Nights. It's the smell of the fog, and it's because it just transports us to being right back there. But I'm saying that as to mean take your time, enjoy the event. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a new person to the event and watched them go through a house and they're so nervous or scared about doing it the first time that they literally run through the house. I had a friend who I took once, and I watched him walk in front of me, and he was just like walking in a straight line, like not turning his head at all, just like beelining through the house, not taking in any details. And if you're new to Halloween Horror Nights, I want you to realize that this is Universal Studios. The reason why this event has so much of fanfare around it is because of the detail they put into their sets. I'm sure at one point they were the scariest Halloween event. To me, that title now goes to other events. However, no one tops Universal when it comes to the level of detail they put into their houses. So make sure when you're going through, you're gonna get scared, people are gonna jump out at you, but just try to soak up the detail around you. Look around, look down, look up, look everywhere, because you never know what you're gonna see. There's always all sorts of little things that they've scattered through the sets that are just awesome. If you have multiple nights, you'll get multiple chances to go through the houses. It's a great time to take in all those little details that you wouldn't have seen if you only went through once. But just don't be that person that pays a whole bunch of money to be there and then runs through the house as if you didn't see anything. Because why? What's the point? You're paying to get scared, you're paying to be there, and it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. You're not going to avoid getting scared. It is a haunted attraction. So just enjoy it while you can and take in those details. And that goes for the scare zones too. Obviously the scare zones don't have as much detail as far as sets these days. However, one of my favorite things to do, which you guys probably know, is to camp in scare zones. To find a bench, sit down, and just watch the actors do their thing. And we'll sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an entire set, just watching the actors work. This is how we end up with our new favorites every single year, because when you watch them scare, you'll watch the people that are really into it, that are really good at what they do. You'll see the ones who are passionate about it, and it is insanely entertaining watching other people get scared. Maybe that's just me, but I love it. Pretty much my favorite part of the event is watching other people get scared. Now I do have a few words to the wise if you are planning to camp in scare zones. This kind of goes for the houses too. If you're a new vlogger and you've decided, I want to come vlog Halloween Horror Nights, one, be aware that you cannot film in the houses. It's not allowed. If you go back at my channel, there was a point where we had YouTube nights and we were invited to film in the houses. That's the only time I've ever filmed in the houses because it is not allowed. It's strictly enforced. You cannot film in the houses. However, in the streets, it's fair game. And when I first started doing this, there were only a few of us that were ever out in the scare zones, and we kind of all knew each other. You know, we kind of give a nod. There's a few photographers who have been doing Horror Nights photography for years. And it's a very small, tight-knit community in Horror Nights, so the veterans, we all know each other. So we kind of see each other in scare zones and do a little nod and wave and move about our business. I will say that in the recent years, vlogging has really taken off. Obviously, theme park vlogging has really taken off. And I'm noticing some bad habits coming out of vloggers or photographers that are kind of swarming into Halloween Horror Nights. So the one tip I want to give if you were someone new and you're wanting to vlog your experience is to respect the actors and to give them space. I guess my biggest tip is to let the actors come to you, don't chase them. You know, I typically find a spot and I stay in that spot and I just film the action around me. And the actors that want to be on camera, that want to be part of the video, will come up and interact with you. You don't have to chase them down. I just see a future where vloggers aren't allowed to do this anymore because the actors are getting harassed. And I don't want that to happen because I love filming Horror Nights. So just putting that out there as a PSA, if you are a new vlogger, to just respect the event, respect that there are people there that are paid to get scared and not paid to lose out on an experience because vloggers and photographers have taken over the zone. Also, I can attest to the fact that as someone who quietly observed, the actors still got to know who I was. They still started to recognize me. My scarecrows that you always hear me talk about, I did not know them before that event. I just appreciated their scaring style and returned night after night to watch them scare. And then on the last night of the event, they came over and chatted with me, and I am actually friends with one of them now. And so you never know what will happen. But I guess my point is that if you're wanting interactions, if you want to have that kind of relationship that I typically have with actors, let them come to you, because the ones that want that relationship will seek it. They'll recognize you, they'll understand, and they will come to you. So then tip number 5 is that after all that resting, after all that stopping and smelling in the fog, everything you've done, hit the houses one more time at the very end of the night. If you can power through until 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever the closing time is while you're there, if you can power through to that last hour, there's typically a sweet spot again where the general public starts to leave. They start getting tired, they have long drives home, they want to get back to their hotel, they've had too many beers and margaritas and they're like about to pass out. They leave, and you'll typically have that last hour to power through some houses. Typically there is a universal app that will give you the wait times of the houses that you can kind of monitor and be willing to dart around the park to get to lower wait times. So I highly suggest downloading that. That changes every single year, so I'm not sure what type of, if they're going to use the universal app or if they'll have a dedicated Halloween Horror Nights app. They've changed their method for that constantly. I would say the typical flow of houses is that the sound stages up front are going to be the busiest at the beginning of the night because the general public enters the front gates and go to the first houses they see. Those are the ones you're going to want to tackle at the beginning of the night if you're doing Stay and Scream. And then at the end of the night, in theory, they should drop down because the general public will have to have gone to the back of the park or have already left. That said, if last year's any indicator, it's not going to be a drastic drop. At least not early in the event when the closing time is 1 a.m. And if last year's any indicator, American Horror Story is going to have a 2-hour wait no matter what time of night it is, and you're just going to have to wait for it or only see it twice like I did last year. I only saw it twice, and I love that house. I only saw it twice. So that one's going to be super popular, I imagine. Shiny will probably be super popular, and those two might not get as low as some of the originals. I think some of the originals are supposed to be up front, and they might drop to a pretty reasonable, like 10-minute wait at the end of the night. So that's why you're conserving your energy earlier in the night in order to stay to the very end and power through those last houses. So those are my 5 major tips for having a successful night at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. Like I said, if you have other questions that I did not answer in this, or you just want to know more about my favorite Halloween Horror Nights stuff or Halloween Horror Nights history, like I said, I've done this for 15 years now, I will answer anything I'm able to answer. I do have quite a bit of knowledge of the event because I am obsessive, so I know a lot of the history. But if you just want to know my favorite house, my favorite scare zone, my favorite Bill and Ted's joke, whatever it is, I would gladly answer it, so leave it down below. Next week will be my Halloween Horror Nights Q&A, and then we're really not that far away from my trip, which is crazy. So I hope you guys are ready for the haunt season. I know I am. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure to click the red button down below because I'm going to have lots of Halloween Horror Nights content coming up in the next 2 months. And I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.